Good afternoon from England.
Hello,
And
California.
good morning. Are we still good morning where you are?
Morning. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's San Francisco, I believe.
Yeah, we're 20 minutes east of San Francisco,
Okay,
but we're still on
lovely.
that same coastline. We share the coastline with San Francisco. We're part
Mhm.
of what they call the East
Right.
Bay. So,
Okay. The Bay Area, I know.
Bay Area.
I only know it from films. I've not been
Uh,
there yet, but it looks, I love I used to, as a child, well, as a teen, I watched The Streets of San Francisco
yes,
with Carl Malden.
Carl
Loved
Malden
it.
and
Yep.
yeah, Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Oh, yes, it was, wasn't it?
Michael
I
Douglas. Yeah.
forget. I forget.
hmm
Yes, I forget it was him.
hmm
I loved all that. And you see the trams going up and down
Yep.
and the
Cable car.
cars flying over and of course being perfectly fine when they landed.
Of course. Yeah.
They didn't fall apart. Didn't
No,
fall apart at all.
no, it was
Yeah.
everything good. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
exactly the area. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about you and your writing.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm delighted to be joined by Deborah Rae Cota. Do you prefer just Deb?
Deb's fine.
Deb,
Yeah, Deb's
Deb.
fine.
Okay,
Deb's
super.
good.
Good. So we'll go back to the beginning. How did you did you grow up being a reader? How did you come to writing?
Big reader. I was City of Hayward doesn't give library cards to anybody unless they're 7 years or older. But I got one when
Okay.
I was one of the few that got one when I was 3 years old. And my mom and I would walk to the library every day, and I'd get a
Mhm.
stack of books and take them out and come home and I'd read them all and take them back the next day and get another stack.
And
So
you
they used
maxed your card out.
I maxed my card out, that's for sure. Yeah, and they had a reading caterpillar all around the area of the children's area, and
Mm.
about 9 cents of those were my books because I was reading. My family taught me to read when I was very young, and
Wow.
I learned my letters. I learned to make words. First book I ever read by myself was Green Eggs and Ham. So
Oh,
yeah, I've been a reader since. I love to
yeah.
read.
And do you stick to any particular genre, or do you find you because I started as a teen. I say I blame Stephen King for me reading wearing
Yeah,
glasses
yeah.
because after school and after homework and after food and when I had to go to bed, I had to switch the light out and we were in a 1930s house that had a window above my door, my bedroom door. So my mum would know when the light was on. So I
Oh,
bought a torch, so I'd be under the duvet with a torch reading these thick bricks. And
yep.
now the thinnest book I like reading this because now I'm an editor. It
Mhm.
spoiled my love of reading because
Oh,
I
wow.
just pick them apart. So now
Yeah.
short stories, the shorter the better. So did you find that you were reading everything and still do, or
Still
have you
do.
sort of
Yeah. I
niched?
will actually during a week's time, I will have 3 books going. I have an audiobook and I have an ebook and then I have an actual book.
Mm,
So I find different periods of the day to enjoy all of them. I listen to the audiobook when I drive to and from my day job. I have an
mm,
ebook that I use at lunchtime because it's easier, it's smaller. I have a thing about ruining book covers. So I only read
right.
them at when I can keep them nice and neat and pretty. So I have the
Mhm,
ebook that I lunchtime at work. And then I come home and before I go to sleep, I read the cover book. So
mm,
I have 3 going at one time. Right now I have,
okay.
excuse me, I have a crime novel that I listen to during the day, Lee Child's. I'm reading his
Oh yes. Hmm.
series. So I'm reading those. I have those listened to. I have Colleen Hoover on my ebook that I'm reading. I'm going
Right.
for beginning series. And then I have another one, kind of a really strange book, Sierra Simone. It's kind of uh, like a semi romance, semi erotica. Actually, it was. I wasn't
Mm,
expecting that. The
okay.
storyline. People kept telling me you have to read this. You have to read this. Ignore all the sex, but the story it's very much um, mental illness. There's a strong
Okay.
mental illness that is it's just dealt with beautifully, and the
Mm,
story is very gripping. So I'm on the third one now. It's 4 brothers, but only 3 of them are depicted, and the other one is perfectly normal. The other 3 are having really problematic lives because of their
yeah.
mental. And it's a
Yeah.
beautiful story. I just kind of skip through the parts that I don't want to read and read the story itself. But
Mm,
yeah, I've got 3 different types going right now. And then
okay.
after I'm done with this, I have Tina Turner. I like to read biographies.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I read everything. So, but I
She
get
had
the
a
Stephen King
tough
thing.
life.
Stephen King thing. At
Right.
10 years old, my mom had my mother was an avid reader also. She went to meet Stephen King at a Berkeley bookstore, took every single one of her Stephen King books and had them all signed. And he signed every single one of them.
Wow.
So for her to let me read one of his books that had been signed was a big deal. So I grabbed Salem's Lot because it had a child on the front of the cover with a little drop of blood, and it intrigued me. So she said, you can read that, but only during the day when I'm here.
Right.
I'm here, you
That's
can
fair
read
enough.
it's daylight, and you can read it. And if you have any questions, then come and ask me. That book scared the heck out of me, and I was just hooked. So I really got into fantasy and horror, and that kind of pulled me off into that area because I hadn't really read any of that before. But yeah, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. Huge Stephen King.
Yeah, and I love his short stories.
I have all her
so
books.
much in. So I've sort of mellowed to crime because I don't really write any dark stuff, and it tends to be a bit lighter.
Okay.
And your tell us about your books.
So
how you came to choose the genre that you've written.
It kind of chose me. I wasn't really writing a whole lot. I suffer from anxiety and depression myself. And my therapist said, you know, what is it you used to do when you were happiest to get through your day? And I used to write. And I used to just write little stories in a book, a little journal, right? And anything, something came down. And I stopped. So she said, get back to that. So I did. I started writing little short stories in there, and I showed them to her. And she said, some of these had me laughing till I was crying. She said, keep up with it because it's making a difference. So I continued, kept going. A year later, my best friend lives in New York, and she suffers from insomnia once in a while. So she called me up. She said, Deb, I haven't slept. I haven't slept in 2 days. So I said, well, here, try reading this, get yourself a cup of warm milk and try reading these. So I sent her 3 or 4 little stories that I had written. And she got on the phone at 6 o'clock my time. She said, you need to do something with this because you have a book. You have a book. Put them in this order and go from there. So I did. And then once I started looking at them, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that some people wouldn't see that as terribly flattering, offering your writing to send people to sleep.
People to sleep, I know.
But it worked.
But I know that that's the way she is because I'm the same way. It's like I read something, it makes my eyes tired. I enjoy it. It relaxes. So she said, I had a book. So I thought, okay, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And then as I was writing, I figured out that some of the stories were things of me and my brother and sisters as kids. So I was drawing from my family and kind of flipping it on end and making it to more like a horror fantasy story. So a fishing trip turned into a hunt. So I take that element of going out and fishing, but turn it around that we were hunting for a creature. Different things like that would happen. You know, we just have a family dinner and it got disrupted by relatives coming in. Well, I turned that around. Yes, it's a dinner, but then monsters come in because there's something that about that person that came in. Maybe I really didn't like them that much. So I would take family events and just flip them on its ear. And then here comes the book and the whole story and the whole line of it. And then I had the beginning and end, and I know exactly where the series is going. I know how it's going to end. I've already written the end to the series.
So I
have a point A and point B. But yeah, it all started out with me trying to get my head together, trying to get my life back in order. And because I started writing when I was 11. I wrote a short story for our elementary school had a newspaper, and my 5th grade teacher encouraged me to supplement something, to submit something. So I did, and I won. And then she gave me a notebook and a pen and said, you need to write something every day. And that was when I was my happiest, when she gave me that notebook, and I would just write something. It didn't have to be a big, big story or a letter or anything, short little paragraph. So I did, I wrote something every day. And that was when I was my happiest. So
your therapist knew what she was doing.
Yes, she definitely did. She definitely did. There's a freedom to it that you get, you know, it's your brain going through your arm to your hand. So, because even now I handwrite everything.
Do you? Okay. And then you type it up. You type it up thereafter.
Okay, so my sister is brilliant. She found this thing called a Remarkable. So I handwrite everything as a tablet, but then you convert to text, and I send it to myself, and then I just go through and I edit. So I'm still handwriting, but at the same time, it's doing the work for me. So because she used to type everything.
I love those.
Yeah, she used to type everything. You have to get away from that. So.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, I find because I write so little that that, I mean, if you're handwriting all the time, you're used to it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure if you're used to a typewriter and you go back to handwriting, your arm aches so quickly after not that long, because
Mm-hmm.
you're just not used to it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a set time when you write? Do you have, because I mean, you write regularly now. Do
I
you
do.
do you get up and then
No, you know what I do
write?
is
Or
whatever I read is what I write. I don't have
okay.
so many words a day. If I
Mm,
read 2 chapters, then I write 2 chapters. So that's my
okay.
allowance. That's how I allow myself, is whatever I
Yeah,
read, then that's what I write. I have to allow
it's a
myself
good
that time.
idea.
So
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't
good
go
idea.
by 1,000 words a day, 5,000 words a
No,
day. If I don't
no,
read anything that day, then I don't write, because I don't get
no.
it's like having the privilege. Yes, I've experienced these other books. I've read someone else's work. Okay, now I'm allowed
Mm,
to. So
mm.
it's
So
kind of a
by
when I started.
get kind of giving yourself tokens, you earn the
Yes,
tokens by
I earned
reading them, and then
the reading.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lovely idea. Yeah, it's a lovely
I
idea.
found that I was trying to do 1,000 words a day, and it was so much stress.
Mm,
It was really okay.
mm,
I'm locked into this time. I'm locked into this element. I
mm.
can't. And the
Yeah,
word can't kept coming up, and that really irritated me. And I said, so stop doing this. Let's go
yeah,
read, relax. Okay, I've read three
yeah,
chapters. Now let's go write.
yeah.
So it works
Well,
for me.
yeah, I did NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which actually came from San Francisco. That was an idea born apparently from a San Francisco writers group
Mhm.
that's now, worldwide and has been going for 20 something years.
Yeah, something, yeah.
And yeah, and so I did a few. My first book, Hitman Sam, was a NaNoWriMo, and it was just taken an idea I did at college, and um, and I liked the fact, because if somebody gives me a deadline, I'm
Mhm.
good. I'll stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But equally, the pressure of writing
Mhm.
1,167 words a day,
Mhm.
if you have to be in a certain kind of frame to be able to, and I did it the first couple of times I did it. The third
Mhm.
time, actually, I wrote 116,000 in the month, but I was only working part time. So that was, and I had the idea. I'm a pantser. I don't know. I get the impression that you're sort of somewhere in between, where you get an idea and you write, your start and end at least.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I need that. I think that comes from, I have an accounting background. I'm an accountant
Okay.
by daytime,
Hmm.
and my life is structured by spreadsheets. So I think
I love
that's where that
spreadsheets.
comes from, right? I have a beginning, I have an end, here's a total, double
Mm,
lines. I think it's actually helped me with my writing, because
mm,
my summary sheets and everything of what I'm going to write is in a data table, and I have
okay.
everything out as I go. I click them off, right, that I've finished.
Mm,
So
mm,
I need that. I need that
okay.
structure. I can't
Yeah.
just write. I don't know how to
Yeah.
just. So
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do that. Just get an idea and just flow with it. I
Yeah.
can't. I need that structure. I need a little grid in front of me to tell me this is where you are.
Yeah. Well, I started off as a total pantser,
Mm-hmm.
but I think certainly for novels, that's fine for short stories. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for novels, I do get to a point. I get stuck quicker if I don't have some form of idea where it's going, and so
Okay.
now I make some notes.
Uh-huh.
But do you find, when you've got your structure, do you find then when you're writing it that things change? You
Definitely.
create characters you weren't anticipating creating, or bumping
Yeah.
somebody off that you didn't
Mhm.
plan to bump off, or
Yeah.
something like.
Specifically, the chapter I'm writing right now, I noticed that that character hadn't had a burst of growth. Everyone else had. I have several characters, because I don't know if you've ever read any of my things, but I have multiple characters. There's many voices going on in my head at one time.
Right.
And
Mm,
my one main character here, though, she's a very prominent character. I didn't have her grow. And I noticed that
right.
everything else has grown. And I'm writing her
Mm,
dialogue, and I went, this is not right, because she has changed a lot since the
mm,
first. This is now book 5. She has grown. She has progressed, even from the previous book to this one. I need to
mm,
show her growth. So I've
right.
redone the chapter. I went back and I totally took her apart, tore it all apart,
Mm,
and now I'm finally happy with the chapter, because
mm,
I realized that, yeah, it changes. And now changing that chapter now, 4 chapters forward in my little data sheet, I've got to change something entirely, because she's grown.
yeah.
So everything else has to grow with it. You can't stay in one spot.
Mm.
It's like life.
Because they,
You can't stay in one spot.
yeah, because they do take over, don't they? The characters.
Oh, they do.
They kind
Yes.
of, yeah.
Yes. do. Yes, they do. So, but that's good.
Which I love.
That means that
Yeah.
you're too, so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has to, or at least I would hope so. I don't want to
Yeah.
think I'm going to be stuck in a little box with just these are the characters, what they do, we're done. They have to
Yeah.
grow. I have to
Yeah.
grow.
Because you're published and you're still working on the series, have you found any limitations? Because we'll say you've I don't know, you've killed off someone you this isn't probably a good example for your genre, but you've done something already that's now set in stone because you've published it, that you wish actually, if I had done it a different way, that would help me later on. Or you're quite happy just going
I'm
that
pretty
you've
happy with
done what
where we
you've done.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of my stuff is emotionally driven. So the people that I've
Mhm.
killed off are people that have in one way or another wronged me, or
Okay.
I don't know if we have a stab me in the back,
Hmm.
piss me off. Those are the ones I
Yeah.
put off. So when I put those characters in there, I'm putting them in there for a reason. I had a former boss that was just throwing me under the bus left and right. So she's now
Mm.
gone from the company, but I've killed her off, I think, 3 times in the book.
I love
So
that.
different character name,
Yeah.
different situation, but I would always
Yeah.
put her
Yeah.
in there and
Uh,
then
yeah.
you're gone.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah.
no, I don't any of those. None of that has any
Mm,
effect with the main characters. So
mm,
this coming book, I am going to kill off a main character, but I'm doing it purposefully
yeah.
and with the thought of what's going on in the final book. So I already know ahead of time, okay, this is where we're going.
Mm,
It's going to be okay. It's
yeah.
going to be okay.
See, it's a very liberating thing, I think, and a shock for the readers that if you
Mm-hmm.
kill off a main character, then it's no one's safe. There
Mm-hmm.
was a G.I. Joe film I saw some years back, in the last decade anyway, where it had Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and lots of famous characters, including Channing Tatum was in it, and he was, plot spoiler, he was blown up 10 minutes into the film,
Oh,
and I
wow.
thought, well, he's Channing Tatum, he can't
Yeah.
die, and he
Yeah.
did. And you just think, okay, what's going to happen to everybody else?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think it's a great device for keeping readers on their toes.
It is. You have to do that too, because I mean, a lot of times too, the character's not so much um, that you're just killing them off. You're giving growth because
Mm,
there is life in death, right? You have
mm,
to show that things move on, and you have to
mm,
continue on from there. And yeah, there's a possibility somebody else could die because that's life. It does happen, but it
mm,
lets you grow. It lets the reader grow, and then yeah, it does drive you forward to the rest of the books.
mm, mm.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you cope with the editing process? Do you find when you're dictating it or when you're handwriting it that when you go through it again, do you change very much? And I'm sure, I guess, as you write more and more, they
Mm-hmm.
become tighter as you go along.
Mm-hmm. So I've learned from the first book, I learned that I shouldn't just write. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I used to write the whole story flat out from beginning to end. I thought, okay, this is it.
Mm,
And then I went back over it and I looked at it again as I was doing twice the work once I was going back through what I thought was the final book. So
mm,
what I do now is I do the bones. I go in there and I write exactly what I want that chapter to be. These are the
mm,
basics, this is everything that I want it to be. Then I go back and then I go, okay, this is how we brush this up. This is how we fluff this up. How do we add this? So we're going to add this because this happens at the end of the book. So we're going to give a little lead into here.
mm,
So I'm essentially writing the book twice, which is what I was already doing.
mm.
But at the same time, I'm not putting so much pressure on myself to complete the quote unquote perfect chapter.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just write the bones first, and now let's go put the meat on.
Mm,
And we fill things in and we build things up, and then the chapter really starts to grow. And then I feel comfortable giving it to my editor. At
right.
that point, is the only time that I feel comfortable giving it to my editor. And then even
Mm.
then, I have another step in there. I have my sister who proofreads and goes
I was
through
going to
again.
ask you if you have other people who
Yes, they
who
do.
go between
Yeah,
that
I
start
have
and finish point.
she has read my
Yeah.
books, I don't think 19 times. Each book has been read 19 times.
Wow.
But she'll go through and she'll proofread it for me. She's a former teacher. My editor is a
Mm-hmm.
former teacher.
Mm,
She'll go through and she'll say, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. Look, oh, you spelled this wrong, or oh, this is incorrect. So she goes through it once
mm,
for me. And then once
mm.
she goes through it, I go through it again. And then when I feel good, then it goes to Miss Sharon and she'll go through it and she'll still find stuff in there with her red pen and go, this is wrong, this is wrong. Oh, I
Yeah.
hate the process, but
We
at the
gotta
same
love
time,
gotta love
yeah,
the red pen.
yeah,
So
it's a
does
love
yeah.
and hate
Does she
relationship.
does your sister see it in print form? Does she, do you print it out and she hence the red pen, literally the red pen?
The red pen, yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So I've got, usually I buy a case of paper because I know I'm going to be printing pages over and over again. So I give her
Mm.
pages, and then she gets busy. She's not doing, she's got other stuff, or she's got a life. She's got things she's
Yeah.
got to do.
Yeah.
Come home.
Yeah.
You haven't read it yet? Why aren't you ready? I need to know what's going on. And then
Because you want to move on.
I want to move on. Yeah. And she says, I'm
Yeah.
busy. I said, yeah, I know. You got a life, but
Yeah.
you need to read this
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
So
bless.
yeah, no, I have her. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. She goes through it for me. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple of times I write some pretty scary stuff, and she's not big on scary stories. And then
Okay.
I will tell her specifically, read it in the daylight. Just, oh
Right.
God. So she knows it's going to be something kind of on the
Yeah.
board. So, yeah.
Bless. So does she get involved in your covers? Does she?
Oh,
Who is involved in the process of your covers?
so unfortunately during COVID, my publisher got bought out by Amazon. So
Okay.
to Amazon, CreateSpace was who was my publisher. They let
Mm.
me create my own covers, and I loved them because I'm a retired photographer. So I
Oh,
would take
yeah.
elements of the book and create my own scenario in a little box. It's called
Mm.
a film box, and you put it
Okay.
in a white background or a black background, or you can put different colors.
Mm.
And I set
Mm.
everything up and do a still life, and then I would infuse it on the cover of the book.
Mm.
CreateSpace went under during COVID. Amazon bought them out. They no longer have my cover element. They have certain covers. There are too many rules now, too many rigidities that you can't have this, you can't use this. Oh, you can use this instead. Oh, we have a picture just like it. Just use this. I said, screw it. So
Mm.
I changed everything over, and I found something that looked like a broken mirror. Mirrors are very big in my book. So I looked like a
Mm.
broken mirror. I used that and just did different colors. So now it's a black book with the mirror, the crash mirror, and each book is a different color. So
Mm.
yes, I used to be involved in the covers, and now I'm not. Now that's been taken away from me. So
Right.
it's kind of a sore spot. I still have the old books. My sister still has the old books, and I loved them because it was so much fun to
No.
in that part of the creativity of creating the story
Yeah.
on the cover of what's in the book. So, but so yes and no. Yes, I am still involved, and no, I'm not because they took that element
Mm.
away. So
You kind of think though when someone else is involved that they know what they're doing. You like to think that
well,
they know what they're doing from a
yeah,
marketing point of
yeah,
view.
you would hope so, but yeah,
Mm.
apparently not. Apparently not. CreateSpace
No.
is wonderful because they did everything. They did. They
Right.
did books. They did peripherals. They did what do you call it? Not the comic books, but the graphic
Graphic
novels.
novels.
They
Yeah.
printed.
Yeah, I was with CreateSpace back in the day. And
Yeah,
then all
they
of a sudden,
were, yeah,
yeah, all of
they
a
went
sudden
they
they
couldn't
weren't.
survive. Yeah, they couldn't
Yeah.
survive COVID, and they sent a big note out. Apologies, we just can't keep up with. Yeah, and
No.
we've got to buy. They said we have a buyer, but they didn't tell us who it was. Next thing I know, I get a
Right.
link from Amazon saying, "Oh, congratulations,
Yeah.
you."
Uh,
No,
yeah.
so I mean, I'm happy with them. They've got a great marketing program. They've got
Mm.
a lot of good features, but they took away my covers, and that just
Mm.
a little bit of a sore spot there. So
And every reader judges a book by it,
yes, yeah,
really. 99.9% of readers will.
they
And
do.
when it's so tiny, it's got
Mm-hmm.
to stand out, hasn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You look at my book, I'm amongst the shelves of other Black books. So,
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah.
So,
So but you say they're great at marketing. What kind of
yeah.
marketing do you do yourself?
Mostly, I haven't done a lot through Amazon anymore because they've gotten very pricey. But mostly, me
Mm.
myself, I give books away.
Okay.
I find people that okay. So, long story short, I go to art fairs, and sometimes they'll say, "Hey, you want a table?" They say, "Okay, how much?" And I say, "No, it's free.
Mm.
It's just a whole event." So I go out there and I sell books.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
great. So this one woman came up and bought 2 sets of my books. And I said, "Oh, are you a reader?" She says, "No, I work at the prison, and they need books up there."
Oh,
So I set
okay.
up a following on my webpage from a lot of prisoners at prisons
Mm.
because she would
Right.
take them out. She would go to San Quentin, and she would go to another prison that we have locally. And I was getting
Yeah.
email from prisoners left and right.
Wow.
Oh, I love your books. When's the next one coming out? You know, my buddies and I have been reading this, so I have a big following in the local
Mm,
California prisons.
mm,
So yeah, that was always kind of a weird thing, but I give a lot of books away. So,
yeah.
and come back and say, yeah, you gave me this book and I really like it. And I'm really looking forward to
Yeah.
going forward with it.
What
So,
what's next? See, well, I've had this conversation before where um I met a friend at I didn't know she became a friend at a literary festival in the ladies, actually, in the toilets. And we were all given goodie. Well, I was volunteered, but I did get a goodie bag,
mhm,
and all the paying people got goodie bags. And one of her books was Joe Nesbo, Scandi Noir. And when she went home that afternoon, her son gave the books to her son. They're both avid readers, and
mhm,
he read it. That they literally stayed up and read the whole thing,
mhm.
and then went to Waterstones the next day and bought the rest of
Rest of the series.
anything that he'd read. Yeah.
I
So
love
how
Jonah.
how long does it take you to write? Because this does follow on you from your last comment. How long
Mhm.
would you say it takes you from start to finish, from idea to the book being ready?
It
Or does
depends
it
on the depth
vary?
of the book. It depends on the depth of the book. The first book took me 3 years because I
Right.
was still getting used to the process, still trying to work everything out. The second
Mm.
book, I actually kind of cheated and took all the stuff that I cut out of book one and made book
Ah,
two and just did
handy.
a
Yes.
new intro. And actually, book two is
Mm,
probably my favorite of the entire series. It's more
mm,
personal.
right.
It's very. I took all the personal stuff out of the first book and put it into the second one, and it's very
Mm,
emotional. It's
right.
I was dealing with a death at the time, so it has to do with death, and it has to do
Mm,
with coping and trying to get through and moving on. And
sure.
then by the time I got to book three, I can probably write it in about 6 months.
Okay.
And the editing process. The book is written, but then the editing process. So it takes about a year from beginning to end to get it
Yeah,
out.
I think that's fairly standard. I think
Mhm.
certainly in publishing, a
Yeah.
year is good going actually in publishing. Because
Mhm.
when you said that you were getting contact from readers from a variety of sources and asking when your new book out,
Mhm.
next book's coming out, and you
Mhm.
kind of think, well, you read it in 2 days. It's going to take me
Yeah.
another 6 months to a year before you get the next one.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what is next?
As a
What?
reader, I get upset when it takes me a long time waiting for somebody to get a new book, but now I understand.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know the process. I know what you're working on. So okay, I
Mm,
can wait. I can
yeah.
wait. Yeah.
Especially because you don't want a book to be rushed. You want to,
Oh,
if you've,
no.
you might spend four hours or a day reading
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and then you've wasted a day, 4 hours to a day if it's rubbish, or may
Mhm.
not get even partway through it if it's really bad. But when
Yeah.
you're a writer, you want it to go out sparkling, don't
Mhm.
you? You and your editor and your sister.
Yes, and my sister.
They want it to go
Mhm.
out as the best it can possibly be.
Yeah. And writing has actually made me a more critical reader because I have stacks of books upstairs. I give it a 50-page read, and I can tell
Mm,
if somebody rushed the book. I can tell that they didn't really care about writing this. Okay, this isn't my book.
yeah,
So I set it
yeah.
aside. I take it to the used bookstore and trade it in for something else. Because you
Mm,
can tell, you get a good feel for how their process was. You can see just in that first
mm,
50 pages, you really was your heart into this. No, it
mm,
wasn't.
mm.
So then I set it aside and I go on to something else and something else grabs me and then I'm hooked. And yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Do you forgive in when you're reading a book if you're enjoying it, but there are aspects of it that you think, well, if I'd written it, I wouldn't do it like that.
Yes,
You're
definitely.
you're
So
able to put that aside and
Cormac McCarthy's book, The Road, has absolutely no punctuation in it, and it made me crazy.
oh yeah,
But I
that would
loved
make
it.
me crazy.
I
Right.
loved it. Though. Yeah, I just had to stop and realize there's a gap, there's a period. Okay, small space. Okay, that's a comma. But there's absolutely
Mm,
no punctuation in it. It made me nuts the first couple of pages, but the story is just so beautiful.
mm,
So yeah, I'm forgiving of some things.
mm.
If the writing is good, oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
forgiving. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you for joining me.
Now I have a
And
face and a voice and everything.
yes, because
Oh,
we
I was
have our paths have crossed quite a lot over the years.
many times, yes.
Yes, no,
Yeah,
it's fabulous.
yeah, he's
Yes.
great.
Well, I look forward to starting a new series of videos about you, your chats,
Mhm.
with a live audience, and we can dive deeply
Okay,
into your books and look at
okay.
those in more detail.
Look forward to
Brilliant.
it. Look forward
Thank
to
you
seeing
so
you.
much.
Now that I've got a
Uh,
connection to you. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Yes. No, it's
Okay.
been a pleasure. Thank
It's
you.
an honor. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.